Hey guy, how are you all beautiful people are doing? Hope all of you are doing fine, and yes, this is the next season of creating Naruto comics in Naruto world. Akaban was graduated from the University of Arts and Design in the 21st century, then suddenly traversed into the Naruto's world. By bringing my knowledge of arts and my love of Naruto comic, I decided to recreate Naruto comic here. So let's start without any delay. This information is quite shocking. The third Hokage fell into a state of shock and had not recovered for a long time. According to this, the demonic statue of the Outer Path and Infinite Tsukuyomi may be associated with a very powerful and terrifying character, leading to a buried history. After chain speculation, could this be the real goal of Madara? Hiruzen is extremely scared just imagining it. Hokage-sama, what's wrong? Akaban stretched out his hand and shook it in front of the stiff-looking Hiruzen. Since just now, the hearts of Hiruzen have been in chaos, and his eyes have been lost. Maybe he was scared by his words. Ha! Oh, nothing, I just thought about a little bit more. Hiruzen coughed slightly to cover up his gaffe. Then he said seriously, this information is very important, is there any more? This, the fusion of White Zetsu and the Hashirama cell may give birth to new abilities, such as wood style and the like, so we have to take precautions in this regard. Akaban reminded. When Hiruzen heard about it, he nodded gently. Another key piece of information, he secretly said in his heart. Akaban hesitated for a moment, and while the old man was happier, he said something shocking. By the way, Hokage-sama, my spiritual energy has increased rapidly recently, I doubt. I feel like I might awaken my Sharingan eyes. Akaban whispered. Hiruzen was bewildered. Sharingan eyes. Can this kind of thing be predicted in advance? Why do you feel this way? Hiruzen did not say it directly, instead, he asked Akaban. You also know that I have mastered the observation haki, and my perception ability is stronger than that of ordinary ninjas. And that's why I feel, part of my spiritual energy has begun to change and it is concentrated on my eyes. Akaban continued to explain. Hiruzen took a deep breath, astonishment clearly visible in his eyes. Because it's none other than the Sharingan. Although few Kasaku sage said that the Kurama clan has Indra's bloodline before, it is clear that the Kurama clan belongs to a branch family, and also the reason why their Sharingan has not been awakened. But now Akaban is almost there. This is no small matter at all. If the Uchiha clan didn't exist, it would be fine, but the Uchiha clan is still alive, that's why, this matter is big. Hiruzen had thousands of thoughts in his mind, and various countermeasures flashed through, but they were all ruled out by him. Finally, he stared at Akaban and said helplessly, if it's really impossible to discuss it with Patriarch Yuan, I will intervene. He was afraid that Yuan would have an opinion of Akaban awakening Sharingan. But it is not unprecedented, after all, for Uchiha, their Sharingan is their glory. Since ancient times, they have never let their blood flow out. But now, a foreigner suddenly appeared with Sharingan. Even if this foreigner got it through his own formal channels, they will inevitably have some strange ideas about that foreigner. If this matter cannot be handled properly, in the future, Kurama and Uchiha may clash and only one from the two remains. And judging from the current strength comparison, it is obvious that Akaban has a higher chance of surviving. Maybe I should worry about Uchiha. Hiruzen thought in secret. Well, I will, just to mention it to you, lest you turn around and call me over. Akaban explained indifferently. He also happened to think of this opportunity, and he happened to report to the third Hokage. As for Uchiha, he really didn't care too much. Secondly, Uchiha Yuan was not a fool. The relationship between Uchiha Yuan and Ikeban is hard to say, but they definitely know each other's temperaments. Ikeban is lazy and affectionate. On the other hand, Uchiha Yuan is profit-oriented, and for him, family is the most important. Both have weaknesses, but compared to Uchiha Yuan weaknesses, Ikeban is stronger. That's why Uchiha wouldn't dare to do anything to the Kurama clan. But the superficial effort is still needed. After Ikeban left the Hokage building, he then went to the security team. The security team has been quite busy recently dealing with the Jashinists. Fortunately, Uchiha has Uchiha Ensho. After awakening his main Gekyo Sharingan, Uchiha Ensho's offense was more devastating, and his fire-style formidable power even became more formidable. He would attack any enemy that the rest of the people couldn't deal with. With his attack alone, the cultist was done for. No matter what strange ability they got from the god of death, Jashin, in front of greater strength, struggling is futile. Thanks to this, the minister of the security department, Uchiha Yuan, can stay in the village, otherwise, Ikeban would not take this trip. The security department is booming, and Uchiha is now full of energy. When Ikeban arrived, except for the guards responsible for the security of the village, all the others were sent out to arrest cultists and thieves. Uchiha Yuan was not idle either. His responsibilities are somewhat similar to Danza, responsible for collecting all the information and then deciding on personnel allocation and force dispatch. Hearing that Ikeban was coming, he walked out of the office to see him without saying anything. "Minister, Ikeban. Go down, I'll do it here." Uchiha Yuan patted the guard at the door on the shoulder and then walked over with a smile. He didn't know why Ikeban was here, but there must be something important, otherwise, this kid wouldn't come up. Walking into the field, the formerly lively training ground of the security department is now deserted. "It seems you're busy. Recently, cultists are rampant, and there is not enough manpower. Even your father went out to support. By the way, what brings the frontline dignitaries to me?" Uchiha Yuan rubbed his temples. Given the scarcity of manpower, and Ikeban currently being the Anbu second in command, his first reaction is that Danza wants to pull people from him. This is not impossible. In the past, excellent members like Shinyai were transferred to Danza because of the lack of people on the front line. It is easy to come back after the war. But it is hard to say whether those ninjas will still belong to the security department after the war. Therefore, Uchiha Yuan's expression is not good. Ikeban coughed lightly and explained, "No, it has nothing to do with the front line, it's just some of my personal affairs. Last time I mentioned to you that Fukasaku sage said that the Kurama clan has an Indra bloodline, right?" Uchiha Yuan frowned slightly. "Indra bloodline? This matter sounds a bit serious. Don't tell you Kurama Ikeban wants to marry into our Uchiha. However, even if the Kurama clan are the descendants of Indra like Uchiha, it is impossible for him to agree to intermarriage, but with Ikeban's strength." He felt a little embarrassed. Uchiha Yuan pondered for a moment and then said, "First tell me what the hell is going on. I may have opened my eyes recently, but my path is different from yours. My spiritual energy has begun to transform in a special way. I feel that I can mobilize that power. Maybe when my spiritual energy reaches a certain level." Ikeban did not continue. However, the meaning has been expressed, as long as the mental power is raised to a certain level, Akaban's eyes may directly evolve. This is of course verbal. Sharingan's eyes power, even for Madara, it is impossible to control his spiritual energy freely. It takes him the eyes of his younger brother to obtain eternal Mangekyou ability. But Uchiha Yuan didn't know this. He nodded gently. Oh, eye awakening, wait a minute, do you mean that you had any advance signs when your eyes were about to awaken? In the beginning, Uchiha Yuan didn't worry about it. Akaban's talents even surpassed those of the young Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara. It is not comparable in itself, and it is not uncommon for someone with the same ancestors to awaken the same eyes. But when he learned that Akaban could predict it in advance when he was about to awaken his eyes, he was stunned. What is the reason for this? Well, my perception ability is relatively strong, and with my mastery of the observation haki, that's why. Akaban explained. Observation haki. Oh, that's all right. Uchiha Yuan failed to master the observation haki, but within his clan one or two tried to learn them and was successful, which is considered to be an introductory level, but they can't even master it. But Kurama Akaban is not a normal person. He is incomparable among his peers. A second later, his expression changed to joy. Everyone is of the same origin, so you don't need to come over and tell me. Besides, when you awaken your Sharingan, we have another bargaining chip against Madara. This is a great thing. No matter what Uchiha Yuan really thought in his heart, his expression was quite happy at the moment. Firstly, to face Madara, they really need Akaban and Uzumaki Mito strength, so Akaban having an upgrade is definitely a good thing. Secondly, it's not a marriage. The beautiful girls in the Uchiha are not even enough internally, so how can he give one to outsiders? I see, then it's okay, I won't disturb you anymore. During this period of time, you will have to work hard for your security department. But when the coalition army on the front line arrives, the Anbu will be free. Akaban promised benefits falsely. In this regard, Uchiha Yuan obviously didn't take it at heart and sneered. The Jashinists are just a beginning. As long as they are familiar with the opponent's methods and ability, their strength is actually quite general. The busiest time is the past few days, and where Anbu will be needed in a while, the security department has already taken care of it. Moreover, isn't Orochimaru still out there? Don't look at Orochimaru's young age, but he has developed various black technologies that are extremely helpful for battlefield reconnaissance and enemy restrictions. If Orochimaru takes action, the pressure on communications and reconnaissance of the security department will be much less. Akaban also understands this, so after saying goodbye, he used the Flying Thunder God Jutsu and disappeared. After Akaban's silhouette disappeared, Uchiha Yuan narrowed his eyes slightly. Sharingan. The Kurama clan will only become more and more terrifying in the future. Will Uchiha be replaced? He was a little worried. The reason why Uchiha was able to gain a foothold in Konoha relied on Uchiha's eyes. However, thinking of Akaban's strength, he had no crooked thoughts. Forget it, let the younger generation worry about the future generation. Right now, they are facing a problem called Madara. Thinking about these affairs, their family will only die faster. Instead of considering these, it is better to improve their own value. By then, with Akaban's character, he wouldn't do anything to the Uchiha. Uchiha Yuan turned around and went to his office after a long sigh. Hey, is the work done here? I just finished my work, so I want to come back and help draw together. Akaban returned to the comic shop and saw the 4 clones sitting in the lounge with snacks and juice, and his heart was overjoyed. That means, when he was about to celebrate, one of his shadow clones, after taking a sip of his juice and eating peanuts, nodded his head and said, "Ours is done, but yours still needs some finishing touches. Good luck, you can do it." The 4 shadow clones quickly finished their last sip, and the peanuts were not finished, but it didn't matter. In the next second, the 4 clones disappeared at the same time. Then, a strong feeling of fullness and fatigue surged, making him dizzy. After regaining his senses, Akaban doesn't help but curse. What the $at? After a few seconds, he looked at the ground. He saw 4 stacks of drawings, the 4 shadow clones painted aside. The content is complete 10 chapters, but the follow-up cover, posters, and catalogs have not yet been completed. Damn you lazy clones! Akaban complained silently in his heart. With no other choice, after cleaning up for a while, completing what needs to be completed, Akaban walked out of the lounge blankly, handed the comic to Kurama Yunlang, and at the same time ordered him to send someone to clean up the house. Fortunately, after the update is complete, he can also take a good rest. Such as go home and sleep for a while, wait until the meal arrives, and then eat. The next is his own relaxed time. The next day, in the country of River, Hidden Stone Village and Hidden Cloud Village have arrived one after another. They brought their Jinchuriki and gathered the Jinchuriki in the enclosed barrier made by Uzumaki Maito. Of course, they did not give their Jinchuriki to Konoha's care in peace, but instead sent a Sealing Squad and Elite Squad Ninja to protect them to avoid any problems with Jinchuriki in Land of Rivers. In addition, the leaders of the 3 major ninja villages, Hidden Rain Village and Hidden Waterfall Village, have all rushed to Land of Rivers, and at the same time, under the invitation of Great Country, soon such as Land of Iron etc. Small countries also participated. Except for the Kazekage of Land of Wind and Hidden Sand Village, which are controlled by Madara, almost all of them are in place, just like the 5 Kages conference in the comic. In fact, someone even suggested going to Hidden Cloud Village. The forbidden area of Hidden Cloud Village was made public by Akaban Comics. Many people are quite curious about the secrets of the real waterfall and want to see it. But unlike in the comics, everyone has a huge advantage at this time. Besides Madara, there are only black Zetsu and white Zetsu. Even if there are more white Zetsu, it will be tens of thousands at most. If everyone in the ninja world puts together, their number should be enough, right? But many still were worried about Konoha. They won the battle in the future, and everyone sent their tailed beast Jinchuriki to the Land of Rivers. After the war, what would they do if it was picked up by Konoha? Sarutobi's character is not as pedantic as in the comics. He is a shinobi. In the First Ninja World War, he was famous for killing his enemy using his diamond stuff, and his epithet "the Professor" is not just for show. But the worst of all is Danza. He is definitely not a good guy. The most troublesome thing in the entire ninja world was him. This means half praise and half derogation. As enemies, everyone hates Danza, but if there is such a deputy in the village, 90% of the Anbu will be happy that even if they have a nightmare at night, they will still have a smile on their faces. Of course, the one in the comic doesn't count. Hidden Mist Village did not bring their Jinchurikis, just because of this concern, plus not knowing enough about Madara and Black Zetsu, and the country of water is so far away that Madara cannot reach there. But obviously, they underestimated Madara. In fact, After making the first white zetsu, Madara, who was familiar with what he was doing, soon used the sand village Kazekijizak the Jinchuriki to continuously infuse chakra, and manufactured many white zetsu. He didn't use black zetsu to kill the enemy, but spread out, surveying the situation of various roads, and his actions were quite fast. Last night, he had spread to various traffic arteries in the country of River. Stone Village and Hidden Cloud Village on the other hand are very honest, and both brought their Jinchuriki with them. Only the Hidden Mist Village did not bring theirs. And this news was quickly realized by Madara. Without a second word, he asked Black Zetsu to take his shadow clone to the water country. And with Black Zetsu's control, it can minimize the consumption of the clone on the road. Seizing the 3 tails Jinchuriki and 6 tail Jinchuriki, a shadow clone is enough. In addition, there is same harder. Madara is getting older, and his chakra's extraction ability is not as good as that of his prime. Such external forces can be borrowed. The third Mitsukage didn't know that Madara was about to rob his backyard. Even if he knew it, it would be useless. Madara with Rinnegan was not something that trifling third Mitsukage could deal with. Even if it was just a shadow clone. However, in Land of Rivers, Naruto comics were sent for 2 consecutive days, or it was given to the army for free, and many people immediately started and circulated it. On the first day, many people read the comics. Akaban has gained a lot of points, and many people have become fascinated by comics. It's a pity the good times don't last long. The next day, the Kages of different villages began to prohibit their subordinates from reading Naruto, and even Uzumaki Maito was prohibited from contacting them. The tragedies of what happened to the previous 8 tails Jinchuriki and 4 tails Jinchuriki are too scary. Free things are the most expensive in this world. This book is full of the whispers of the devil and has the power to deceive people's minds. 80% of Jinchuriki's mentality will burst after reading it. This is a price that every village cannot afford, of course, except for the 8 tails Jinchuriki. Fukai was adopted by the third Reikage and was loved by the family. A group of people with a good mentality, but for the 2 tails Jinchuriki, the third Reikage still did not dare to let him follow Uzumaki Maito or read comics. Fukai just recently became a Jinchuriki, that's why he can be changed. But for the 2 tails Jinchuriki, the grievance is too deep. The third Reikage knows that these things cannot be changed in a short while, and can only hope for the next generation. That is why the current 2 tails Jinchuriki can only be wronged and let him avoid contact with comics and Konoha. However, there are still many people who secretly read the comic update, especially the Hidden Cloud Village. After all, the latest plot is related to Reikage. And the 4th Reikage nature and strength have all got Hidden Cloud Village ninja deep recognition and many become fans. Of course, the 3rd Reikage are naturally also reading. He likes Akaban's character portrayal. This is how his successor should be, strong and domineering, and Killer B's performance makes the 3rd Reikage quite like it. Of course, he still prefers Fukai, this young man. Fukai's excellence is visible, but Killer B doesn't know where he is now. But the problem was, Killer B already has a big brother as his partner, which is the 4th Reikage, but he still selects a Konoha brat. Not to mention that there is such an unspoken secret technique like the cloud-style 3 days moon beheading. Not many people in the world know this. He deeply suspects that Danza has inserted an Anbu spy in their village. Kurama Akaban, that little demon, although craft like Danza, but it is impossible to have his own spy network. However, the 3rd Reikage had no evidence, and could not find this informant, so he had to watch Akaban's domineering work in the comics. The third Raikage is definitely upset. He is a straightforward man. It's okay to talk about conspiracy, but he will meet Akaban someday, so it is inevitable that he will fight him like the fourth Raikage and Naruto in the comics. But Akaban didn't know what he was thinking, but even if he knew about it, Akaban was not afraid. Although Raikage has lightning style armor Kino, and his melee lightning style and Taijutsu that was even more formidable power, but Akaban has the power of thunder. With his elemental body, he can ignore Taijutsu attacks. Of course, elementalization is not omnipotent. If the opponent is fast enough, he will be beaten if he doesn't react as well, but he has knowledge. This is just the beginning. When the leaders of the villages gathered together, after a small meeting and after Danza left, by coincidence, there was a comic book on the scene. Everyone was afraid of this comic and began to rant about it. Onaki talked about the four tails Jinchuriki, who have gone berserk after reading this comic and were killed, and the third Raikage felt the same, but he was secretly contemptuous about what Onaki said. Obviously what Onaki said was a lie. Who can hide things like Jinchuriki's loss? Especially in Great Ninja Village, where Anbu are all over the world. The moment the information was leaked, on the second day news can be sent to their respective Anbu commander. As a result, Onaki received 3 or 4 contemptuous eyes. Of course, everyone has the same attitude towards Akaban. For them, the protagonist of Naruto exists in order to combat against Jinchuriki in the other villages. So today, the free comics are published to make people feel the sunshine and warmth of Konoha, perfectly rendering the 8 tails, while diverting Madara's attention. Insidious and shameless, the little devil who likes to shake off the secrets of other villages, he is outright Danza from head to toe and darkness of the Second Ninja War. Of course, these words are somewhat sour. Every village hopes that there will be one more such heavenly talent in their village. Hiruzen, who has risen to fame in the first Shinobi War, is not old yet, but a new generation genius once again has risen like a beast this generation. So how can they not be jealous? Both Kurama Akaban and the young elite Chunin Hatake Sakumo who they met at the camp surprised them. In comparison, the new generation in their village is too weak. From beginning to end, the third Mitsukage has been taciturn and did not start to talk. However, the fourth Kage Mitsukage Yakura in the comic is controlled by Madara, who created the name of the land of Blood Mist. For the third Mitsukage, this comic is also not a good thing. In short, everyone is more vigilant towards Konoha, and the third Mitsukage is very thankful that he did not do what Danza asked, and didn't bring their Jinchuriki here. If he really brought their Jinchurikis after the war, I'm afraid it will become Konoha's possession. Konoha is too strong. In fact, not only the third Mitsukage, including the third Raikage and Onaki, all regretted bringing all Jinchuriki from their village here. With Uzumaki Mito on the side, their Jinchuriki is safe, but not necessarily after the war. There are no permanent allies, only permanent interests. Of course, the most anxious one is Hidden Sand Village. Zack was controlled. Even though Abizo and Kyo made a deal with the Konoha to save their village, they still failed to win everyone's respect. The village leaders did not bring them to such private meetings. If this continues, after the war, the Sand Village may exited from the ranks of the 5 great ninja villages, and the corresponding Hidden Rain Village may come on top. The new comic book brings a lot of income to Akaban. Although the 3 major villages and the small villages only brought a small number of people to the state camp in the land of River, most of them were routed along the remaining borders, but this part alone was enough to bring tens of thousands of points. But the income plummeted the next day. Akaban guessed that it was most likely that the leaders of those villages had imposed restrictions, and the power of cultural output was terrible, and it was normal for these ninja villages to exercise control. So today, the soaring points finally slowed down. This is so, in just over a day, he has already gained nearly 40,000 points, which is enough to make his mental power reach 300 points. This is a very scary number. Akaban didn't even dare to exchange it all directly, but first exchanged 5 points and increased slowly. Otherwise, if he suddenly increased 30 mental power points in one go, he was afraid that he could not control it for a while. Although it's not dangerous, it will become uncontrollable if that happens. That's why Akaban only exchanges 5 points every few hours, and this is even harder even for him. But after his mental power is increased, he can show his Sharingan appropriately. The third Hokage and Uchiha Yuan said, awakening of his eyes is only a matter of time, so of course he wouldn't let them wait. And after showing that he awakened his eyes, he could find a suitable opportunity for emotional stimulation, and suddenly opened his main Gekyo Sharingan or something along the line. As for the question of eternal main Gekyo, Akaban buried the question early in the morning. His own eyes are stimulated by the transformation of spiritual energy, not Uchiha's eye-opening and emotional stimulation, and his powerful mental power makes people unable to find a reason to refute. A return to ancestor is enough to explain everything. Comics in the Konoha and the Land of River were updated almost simultaneously. This is due to Akaban's arrangement for the caravan. This time the comics are given priority to the front line. And Yamano Izumi was able to deliver it on time at noon. Since the formalization, the efficiency of the factory has become higher and higher. Akaban gave a secret compliment in his heart. Unfortunately, there are not many Jonins in the village nowadays, and even Chunin is mostly taken away by the security department to deal with cultists. The Jashinists are too rampant. So knowing that he couldn't get many points in the village, he brought his attention to the front line. However, the content of the comics is still wonderful, and there are also a lot of people who have read them. The update has only been released for less than an hour, and the comment board is already full of comment notes. And the most popular character right now is the fourth Raikage, of course, not in a favorable way. Here is Konoha. So everyone has a good impression of the sunny guy Naruto, so when the fourth Raikage insists to kill Naruto so that Madara can't resurrect the Ten Tails, it is undoubtedly very upsetting for everyone. And the comment board was full of cursing, and of course, the target of their cursing is the fourth Raikage. But the latest plot is not all about the fourth Raikage, because the readers once again saw the power of Sharingan and Rinnegan. Killer Bee and Naruto are already strong enough, but they are still being beaten in front of the reincarnated Nagato. At the same time, the truth about Uchiha Shisui's death and Kotomatsu Kami's appearance put Danza in the bad guy role again. But Danza is used to it. No one knows Akaban better than him. He understands that Shisui's plot is definitely not the end, and there are still a lot of villain roles waiting for Danza. Who made him the darkness of the ninja world? But it doesn't matter. Great titles always need someone to inherit. Sooner or later these will be returned, and he is not in a hurry. Not to mention, with Danza's character, if Uchiha really got there, maybe he would really do such a thing. He is indeed bad, and he does not deny this, but now Uchiha is very honest, and actively contributes to the village while cooperating with Konoha, and the family problem has been properly resolved. Under such circumstances, he would not break his arm. Most people in Uchiha didn't read the latest update. Most elites are involved in the Jashinist's arrest. Most of the people who stay in the village are brats that can't even be counted as a genin. Among these children, Fugaku is the one who is proud of himself. In the past, he also bought comics at Akaban's shop. However, since the title second danza spread, he dared not go to the Akaban store to read comics. Every time he asked a friend to help bring a copy, or simply read the one that his father had finished reading. Since the children in the clan are more afraid of Akaban, it was not until late in the afternoon that Uchiha's children came quietly to buy books, as they knew that Akaban was mostly not in the store at this time. So, it was close to mealtime that Fugaku read today's update. For him, this comic is quite exciting. Regardless of Itakai's thoughts and methods, this child was deeply fascinated by him. He felt that ninjas should be like this, and Uchiha Shisui is undoubtedly a great ninja. Unfortunately, there is no danza in the world. Akaban didn't care about it. With the preparatory department in his hands, this little boy will fall into his own hands sooner or later and let him see the dark methods of the new generation of ninja world. As for the plot of Gaara, probably nobody cares about it except for the hidden sand village, and the sand ninjas in Land of Rivers have no time to care about comics at this moment. They have been busy during this period of time, collecting intelligence, exploring the land of the wind, and finally came to the conclusion that most of the people who stayed in the village may have been controlled. This is a desperate answer. Even if they fight back, those Chunin will probably still suffer serious injury and death. People in other villages will not hold back just because Hidden Sand Village is being controlled, and they are even happy to see it. As for the weakness of Hidden Sand Village, no one is worried about whether it will lead to an imbalance in ninja world. If one abdicates, new substitutes will naturally come up. For example, the Hidden Rain Village with the epithet demigod as their leader. This made Kyo even more grateful that she didn't negotiate further terms with Danza but decisively agreed to the decision to give up half of the benefits. Of course, Danza is not a good charity man, he will agree because it is good for Konoha. As for the news that Hidden Mist Village did not bring their Jinchu Yuriki, Konoha has been relatively slow to get it, but the third Hokage attaches great importance to it, and immediately consulted Akaban if he received the news. It is the responsibility of the head of the Dark Department and advisor to advise Hokage and share the pressure. Danza is not there, Utatane Koharu is busy with the medical department, and Mitakado Homura is now just a normal jonin, and can go out of Anbu by relying on military orders, and naturally, he is not qualified to contact them. Akaban heard the news from the third Hokage, only to get confirmation from the clone. It can be seen that the shadow clone, usually working, is not much more responsible. But it's also right. They are all separated from him, and their personality and style are similar to those of the main body, and it's already a job well done for the clone for not skipping work directly. So he couldn't ask for too much. So, after thinking for a while, Akaban pondered and said, Hokage-sama, do you mean to save them, or just stand by? This put the Hiruzen in question silent. From Konoha's point of view, it would be better to stand idly by. If Madara can strike the mountain to shake a tiger, the rest of Major Ninja Village will not dare to have similar crooked thoughts. However, from the overall situation, if Madara gets two tail beasts, his strength will definitely be stronger than it is now. After thinking for a moment, he said, if we can prevent Madara from gaining the strength of the Jinchu Yuriki, then it will naturally be prevented. That's not as good as me. Akaban was about to say he would take a look, but in the next second, a figure quickly appeared in the office. It's Anbu. Holding a piece of information in his hand, he was sweaty and panting. It was obvious that his chakra was overconsumed and might faint at any time. Akaban immediately used the chakra in his yin seal. After the improvement of his strength of 100 technique, his yin seal's chakra can also be used by others. So after sharing his chakra, this Anbu will not faint. Hiruzen immediately took the information scroll, took a look at it, and when he read it, he took a cold breath. His eyes were full of shock. Then he raised his head and said, Madara strikes the hidden mist village, where their Jinchu Yorikis are hiding. And the elite ninja protecting the Jinchu Yoriki, only the Zuki clan of the 6 swordsmen survived. Ah, so I don't have to take a trip. Akaban was stunned for a moment, but the first thing he thought of was this problem. The Jinchuriki is gone, so obviously he doesn't need to go there anymore. But Madara is really ruthless. Hidden Mist leader, the 3rd Mitsukage just went to Land of Rivers yesterday, but he already commenced his attack today. No need to take a trip. Hiruzen sat down, his face was a little ugly. 2-tailed beasts. For Madara, this greatly enhances the strength of the demonic statue of the outer path, and with the supply of tailed beast chakra, using the demonic statue will bring much less load to Madara. Akaban thought for a while, and then asked the Anbu ninja, where are the swords of the 6 swordsmen? These subordinates are ashamed. Madara's destructive power was too strong at the time, so we did not dare to approach, and did not really see the battle. The Anbu ninja said with his head down. Hiruzen said gently, it's not your fault, go down first. Facing Uchiha Madara, 90% of people will feel fear in their hearts, and it is normal not to dare to approach. Yes. The Anbu ninja who had been ordered to leave disappeared. Akaban fell into thought. The effect of Same Harder is actually of little use to Madara with Rinnegan. At most, Madara does not need to use Rinnegan's absorption ability to absorb chakra to supplement itself, so that's the only role Same Harder has to Madara. With his mental power, he can use illusion more to contain Madara. If he really fights, then he can count Uzumaki Maito and Dewey, who can open his 7th gates frequently. So against Akaban and Uzumaki Maito, who relies on sealing technique, and at the same time a pure Taijutsu user, even Same Harder will not help much. Thinking about it this way, Akaban doesn't need to worry too much. This is the end of the matter, and there is no point in discussing it. Hiruzen did not force Akaban to stay for too long. He knew that this little guy didn't like to work, and he didn't like to stay here, so he didn't mean to talk. After a while, Akaban left by himself. When he left, Hiruzen couldn't help turning over Akaban's comics. 2 days ago, the comic also mentioned the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist in Hidden Mist Village, and also titled the word legend on their head. As a result, today, the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist were completely wiped out. Except for the owner of Lightning Blades, who was defeated by Akaban, the rest were killed by Madara. But the death of the 6 ninja swordsmen is a big deal for them. It's even better for their village. But the problem was that the tailed beast, not only 1 but 2 tailed beasts, were all abducted. If they want to get it back, they have to ask Madara first if he is willing to give it back. And if the Mitsukage knows about it, I'm afraid he will explode. Hiruzen can't help but want to laugh. Although it is a very tragic thing for the 3rd Mitsukage, who made the Mitsukage harbor ulterior motives and didn't bring their Jinchuriki when the rest of the great ninja villages have brought their Jinchuriki. Except for the Sand Village. In the country of the river, the third Mitsukage has gone mad and was in a frenzy as he sent Mist Ninja crazily just to block the way to the Sand Village in case Madara might return, but obviously, it was futile. Although stealth is the only strongest skill Black Zetsu have, it is unique in the world. So aside from Akaban who can sense him, and with Madara's Whisper Devil Fruit ability, no one can find him so they can only squat on the way. What's more, at the moment he is just a general without an army. While Black Zetsu has the help of White Zetsu and the hidden Sand Village. Not only that. At the border of the land of River, everyone heard the shocking news that Madara appeared. Uchiha Madara appeared in front of everyone for the first time. He was old, but still domineering. Even if he hadn't opened his Sharingan, no one would dare to look at him. But he didn't just stand at the border of the land of River. It only took a few seconds from his appearance to the surprise attack as he killed a bunch of ninjas. However, in fact, he didn't even use his Rinnegan. He only relied on his Sharingan and fire style to slap Kyo who was active on the border and killing Sand Jounin ninja. From the lower position of Land of Rivers, he killed a dozen or more ninja all the way, without blinking his eyes. When Danza and others arrived, the scene was in a mess. The corpses were everywhere. Madara's strength is quite terrifying. It can be seen that both Sand Ninja and Konoha Ninja support were very fast, but Madara is still faster as he killed all the ninjas before they arrived. Seeing the scene, everyone was silent. These ninjas are not just Chunin and Genin. They are all elite teams composed of elite Jounin, Jonin and elite Chunin. They are very strong in strength, but the reality is that none of them survived. Too strong. But it doesn't mean they don't have a chance. Because according to the style of Madara, even if reinforcements come, they should have seen Madara standing in the middle of the blood-littered corpse, extremely domineering. But Madara is gone before they arrive. This means that old age brings not only weakness but also changes in the rules of conduct and style of his play. He is no longer invincible and unbeatable as before. The third Mitsukage's complexion is ugly, his spirit slowly recovers from shock and fear, and then with his teeth gritted, he said, "Madara is in Land of Wind, so who attacked my hidden mist village? Don't tell me Black Zetsu has that kind of strength." Danza couldn't answer. According to the information he collected, Black Zetsu combat effectiveness is not satisfactory, and it is impossible for him to defeat the elite Jounin squad, 2 Jinchuriki and the 6 swordsmen, but who can it be without Madara? It's Madara's shadow clone. At this time, Uzumaki Maito arrived quickly, but this one was just a shadow clone and not the main body. She was worried that if she left the barrier, Madara would send another shadow clone to kidnap the remaining Jinchuriki. Shadow clone? Do you mean, my newly formed 6 swordsmen with 2 Jinchuriki can't beat a shadow clone? In my opinion, it's you Konoha who took the opportunity to attack. The third Mitsukage obviously didn't believe it, and his face was full of gloomy sneers. That is the ninja swordsman he carefully chooses, and each of them is elite Jounin, and the other side is just shadow clone. As long as they use same harder to dry chakra, the shadow clone will be gone. Of course, this was only his thought because he didn't know Madara. He didn't know the actual battle, but from the perspective of Uzumaki Maito, she didn't think there was any problem. The shadow clone possesses the strength of the real body. Madara's shadow clone is naturally different from ordinary people. Uzumaki Maito originally didn't plan to care about the third Mitsukage, but the latter part of what the third Mitsukage said completely irritated her. Uzumaki Maito stared at the other side expressionlessly, and said independently, "If you don't believe it, it's fine, but you dare to slander Konoha. Is it not? Your Konoha's Kurama Ikeban has the Flying Thunder God Jutsu and is a master of illusion and ninjutsu. He has the opportunity and ability to do it. As for the nonsense of Madara's shadow clone, do you believe that this shadow clone of me can defeat you with one hand?" Uzumaki Maito said very seriously. "You bully us too much." The third Mitsukage was extremely angry, and his closed eyes stared at Uzumaki Maito. Even sealing jutsu also needs a hand seal, and Uzumaki Maito's strongest means of attack is impossible to use in a one-handed state. Besides, she is only a shadow clone. Why is a shadow clone so crazy? The third Mitsukage were furious, and the others took a look and quietly retreated. This is definitely going to be a fight. If they don't retreat, they may be hurt by the aftermath. The third Mitsukage has just succeeded to the throne for a few years, but his strength is worthy of recognition. As soon as he attacked, it was a large-scale water style. Water release, great waterfall technique. His speed of using a hand sign is very fast, and he optimized the water technique. And he completed the hand sign of the great waterfall in the blink of an eye, and then spit out a huge water sphere. Uzumaki Maito is true to her words. She didn't use ninjutsu, not even her adamantine sealing chains. She extracted the nine-tailed chakra in an instant, and then she entered the state of her beast chakra mode, and with an instant movement, at super fast speed, she reached the side of the third Mitsukage almost instantly. Although surprised, the third Mitsukage still attacks with his sword. However, Uzumaki Maito attacked with her finger pointed at Mitsukage's arm, and a powerful chakra sank into his body, directly blocking the movement of the chakra in the third Mitsukage's hand. This is not a sealing technique, but the effect is generally the same. But to say that it is not a pure sealing technique, it is more inclined to acupuncture points of the Hyuga clan. This is the nine-tailed chakra mode. The third Raikage has a grave expression. He thought this mode was only in theory, but he didn't expect Konoha to really master it. Unexpectedly, Maito-sama still retains such a strong combat power after many years, and even her taijutsu has not regressed. Then how strong is Madara's strength? Onaki took a deep breath, and bursts of fear in his heart, unconsciously recalling the shameful history of being scared away by Madara. But they have another idea in their hearts. Uzumaki Maito is so strong, as long as Madara's shadow clone can steal the tail beast, that means Konoha has the strength and possibility to do so. At this time, Uzumaki Maito was fully fired. The Navy 6 styles, finger pistol, and shaved were used one after another, and the third Mitsukage was obviously beaten to his head, and his chakra was even sealed, so the result is self-evident. Maito-sama, enough, enough. Danza immediately interrupted. If they continue to fight, Danza is afraid that the third Mitsukage's anger will self-destruct. Uzumaki Maito's hand stopped in front of Mitsukage's neck. She nodded lightly waved her hand, withdrew all the tailed beast chakra, and exited the nine tails mode at the same time. Everyone is worried about the third Mitsukage. If Uzumaki Maito finger attack hits deeper, the third Mitsukage arm is probably abolished. Defeating him with one hand is really not just a talk. If even Uzumaki Maito is so strong like this, then don't mention Madara. Even her shadow clone is enough to hang the 5 Kages. Everyone was shocked and astonishing, but they had to accept the facts. Uzumaki Maito, who fights, have her anger disappeared a lot, and her attitude became gentle again. Mitsukage, I can understand your mood, but I just successfully intercepted Madara's shadow clone and Black Zetsu and helped you regain one of your tailed beast Jinchuriki. What, you intercepted Black Zetsu and Madara? Onaki was surprised. Currently, Uzumaki Maito's main body is in the land of River, so it means it's her shadow clone who intercept them. Is Uzumaki Maito stronger than Madara? Maito-sama, which one did you take back? The third Mitsukage, who had an ugly face, became excited and respectful when he heard this sentence. Can't blame him for his lack of integrity. Losing not one but two-tailed beast, the newly formed 6 swordsmen were almost completely destroyed. This loss was too heavy, and it was of great significance to rescue even just one-tailed beast. It's the 3 tails Jinchuriki. The 6 tails were taken by Black Zetsu, but because Madara's clone is also the end of the crossbow, otherwise I can't easily take it back. Uzumaki Maito explained, then looked at the country of wind. Madara's body showed no signs of coming out for a short time, but if he really wanted to fight, she couldn't stop him with her clone. So she said softly, let's go back and talk more about it. Right. Everyone nodded together. The border suffered heavy losses, and Madara got a new tailed beast, so a meeting must be held. There is a lot to discuss. Jinchuriki's disposal, the way to deal with Madara, and the problem of Hidden Mist Village. At present, only the Hidden Mist Village only comes with their Mitsukage and a small part of ninja. Compared with other villages, there is simply no sincerity. If their 3 tails was not retaken, the third Mitsukage probably would not hesitate to withdraw its troops directly. Anyway, his village has no tailed beasts. They are barefoot and not afraid of wearing shoes and just looking up from the wall. But now that Uzumaki Maito helps them regain their third tail Jinchuriki, he has to reconsider the situation of their village. Mitsukage is not worried that Maito will lie to him because he has arranged a lot of manpower to search for Madara and Black Zetsu. If Uzumaki Maito really fights against Madara's shadow clone, his people will definitely notice. Then if he goes back and asks, he will know whether it's true or false. Back at the camp, Mitsukage was secretly relieved his people did witness Uzumaki Maito fighting Madara. The battle was fierce, and finally, Madara's shadow clone was blown up in the end. In addition, from the third tail's Jinchuriki's memory, everyone also learned about the battle. The 6 swordsmen are very strong, and they can almost fight the 5 Kages together. However, Madara is stronger. Even though he is only the shadow clone, he still beats the 6 swordsmen with his unfathomable strength. Yes, almost unilaterally crushed. Not only the 2 Jinchuriki, but even the ninja sword was taken away, and it was the most special sword, same harder in 6 swords, that was taken away. This time Mitsukage has nothing to say. At the same time, Danza and Uzumaki Maito were also relieved. At present, the ninja alliance is very loose, and there is no trust at all. It is the third Mitsukage who caused all this. If the tragedy of Hidden Mist is distorted and interpreted, Konoha may become a target of public criticism. The most important is, Danza knows very well that Akaban has indeed done such a thing, abducting the 7 tails, and is still hidden by Kakuzu. Fortunately, the crisis was resolved, and then it was Hidden Mist Village's turn to bleed. How strong is Madara? In the past, these third-generation's Kages did not have clear knowledge. After all, when they grew up, Madara had disappeared. Now they understand. Madara represents invincibility. His name alone possesses powerful power, and after witnessing it with their own eyes, everyone except Konoha ninja has a feeling of fear. As for Konoha, everyone has passed the stage of worry and fear. And those who are afraid have already transformed. After working hard for a period of time, Konoha has many means to target Madara. First of all, they have Akaban, Dewey and Uzumaki Mito. Secondly, they also have the impure world reincarnation. And Senju Hashirama's cells are ready for use at any time. In fact, Akaban and the Konoha already have enough power to defeat Madara, but Akaban knows that even if they defeat Madara, the ninja world will still remain chaotic. And although it will result in many casualties after the war, it's necessary for a bright future. Now that there is a war on the front line, Akaban cannot continue to stay in Konoha no matter what. He must go to the front. The news reached Konoha the next day, just as the comic was updated, and the plot happened so that Uchiha Madara was resurrected. Hiruzen called Akaban over. He knew it was just a coincidence, but he sighed in pain when he thought of the Konoha ninja slaughtered by Madara in the front line. Although most of them are the ninjas of the Sand Hidden Village, the rest are the elites of Konoha. Akaban didn't know what was going on. He was pulled up early in the morning and almost lost his temper. However, after seeing how anxious the ninja was sent to inform him, he immediately used Flying Thunder God Jutsu to arrive at the Hokage building after washing. Hokage-sama. Akaban just wanted to complain, only to see a bunch of people inside. Uchiha Yuan, Hyuga Meizazu, Utatane Koharu, and many family patriarchs who have not been on the battlefield. It can be said that the small office has gathered the strongest fighting strength among the Konoha left behind personnel. So the situation is definitely serious. He put away the thoughts of complaining, and he honestly entered the door and stood behind. Hiruzen waved helplessly, let Akaban come to the front, and then showed him the intelligence scroll. Akaban took a look. Madara attacked the front line. The Land of Rivers need your cooperation. You will know the specific situation when you go to the front line. In addition, Patriarch Yuan and Meizazu, you two will also go to the front line to participate in the battle, and the rest will fully cooperate with the Security Department and the Reconnaissance Department to wipe out the Jashinists. Hiruzen simply gave orders. He didn't mention himself, but the heads of the Security Department and the Reconnaissance Department will go to the Land of Rivers. So obviously Hiruzen was going to personally take command and uproot the power of the cultist in the Country of Fire in one fell swoop. To get rid of the outside, they must first settle their inside. In a sense, it is right. Akaban nodded and agreed. The war is stuck at this point. It doesn't make sense for him to shrink again. Moreover, his mental strength has recently increased to 300, so he has certain confidence to defeat Madara. If it can be done once and for all, it is naturally the best. Of course, Uchiha Yuan and Hyuga Meizazu have no objection. At this time, it depends on who contributes more and who shrinks back. And it's also the best time to settle whose clan is the strongest between the two. And it didn't take long for the three to depart from Konoha and head to Land of Rivers. But Akaban didn't wait for them. With the use of Flying Thunder God Jutsu, he arrived directly from Konoha to the Land of River camp. Inside the camp tent, Sakumo held the comics in his hand and sat there quietly reading. But the other three are different from him. They are all standing and walking around, clearly restless. Calm down, worrying about it won't change anything. Are you not worried? Murasaki's tone was a little impatient. because that's none other than Madara. Yiwu and Shinui were obviously also very worried. Although they didn't see the battle scene, they could imagine how tragic the war scene was based on the final figures. 50 elite Jounin, 130 Jonin, and more than 300 elite Chunin. So many ninjas couldn't even wait for support, and they were killed by Madara in a short time. What a power this is! Just like I said, it's useless to worry. We can no longer participate in that kind of battle. Sakumo was very calm. His expertise lies in assassinations and group battles. When his target strength is similar to his, he is very strong, but if he can't even break the defense of his opponent, then it's a losing battle for him. He is completely restrained in his fighting style. Murasaki and others were speechless. Although what Sakumo said made sense, they still couldn't just calm down. With this time, it's better to read more comics. Recently the plot is quite interesting, and Uchiha Madara is resurrected in the comic. Sakumo raised the comic in hand. This is today's update. It has just been delivered to their camp. The ban is imposed on the rest of the village, so Konoha's ninja can take turns reading without hurrying. Resurrection. Yiwu leaned in immediately after hearing it. The plot is really exciting. Itachi cracked the Chibaku Tensei, which is awesome. Plus the fight with the current Kijis against the previous generation Kijis, it can be said that each shows its own magical powers. Even now Uchiha Madara was reincarnated by the impure world reincarnation. That Toby is not Madara. Yiwu was surprised, but also a little enlightened. Indeed, from all angles, Toby is quite different from the legendary Madara, but she was preconceived before and did not think carefully. Murasaki also leaned forward curiously. Murasaki originally wanted to say that the comic was nothing good, but when the other two went to read it, he followed suit. This leads to. As soon as Akaban appeared, the three people were in bowed position and their asses facing Akaban. What are you doing? The atmosphere is weird. Akaban, why are you here? Shinui, who has the strongest perception, is the first to react and straighten up. Whoosh tilde. The three also followed suit as they straightened up. Although Ninja World did not say about the position of picking up soap, this posture is still quite embarrassing to others, especially the three people's movements are very consistent just now, it's almost. I will report first, don't mind me. Akaban, who had a weird look on his face, instantly disappeared from the tent using body flicker jutsu. The four looked at each other. Look at it first, I'll see the situation. Sakumo handed the comic to the other three, let them read it by themselves, and then walked out of the tent by himself, looking thoughtfully at where Akaban had left. Akaban came here at this time, does he want to find Madara's position, or take the initiative? Sakumo secretly guessed. No one dares to ignore Madara's threat anymore. Sakumo knows that Akaban is strong, but if Akaban alone is used for reconnaissance, it is quite dangerous, not to mention, it may be very laborious and time-consuming. It would be great if I could also learn the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. Sakumo sighed softly. Flying Thunder God Jutsu is too difficult, he also consulted about it before, but he can't master it, otherwise, Akaban would not have to fight alone. However, in terms of speed, apart from using the 8 inner gates, I should be the fastest, and I can definitely serve as a coordinator. Thinking of this, Sakumo immediately followed the pace and headed to Danza's camp. Danza dispersed the guards and left Akaban alone. The two of them were silent, without any face-to-face communication, but turned into the illusion, avoiding the content of the conversation from being heard by the others. In the illusory domain, Danza and Ikeban sat opposite each other and talked with each other very well. I would like to ask you to check the whereabouts of Madara. At present, except for Mito-sama, only you can retreat after encountering Madara. No problem, it just so happens that my mental power has skyrocketed recently, and I already awakened my eyes, so I also want to find Madara to see if my illusion can work for him. Ikeban did not refuse. He originally planned to find Madara to see if his current genjutsu could affect him in the state where his Sharingan is open. At the same time, he opened his eyes to let Danza take a look. Mangekyo Sharingan. Sharingan. The Kurama clan really has Indra blood. Of course, Danza was surprised. He had always felt that Ikeban and Fukasaku Sage were talking nonsense, but the result turned out to be true, and after his awakening, it is directly at the Mangekyo level. I accelerated the transformation with my high mental power, and as a result, I reached the Mangekyo Sharingan level directly after awakening my eyes. He didn't hide it from Danza for too many reasons, but of course, he also didn't tell the truth. His own mental power is now stronger than Uzumaki Mito. Of course, it can't be considered in general, and Danza will not be so stupid to compare him with those of Uchiha. Besides, Danza vaguely guessed some things about Ikeban. Really? He didn't pursue it much, but directly asked, what about its ability? Substantialize illusion. Great. Danza had some doubts about the authenticity of his Sharingan awakening before, but when he heard of this ability, his suspicion immediately disappeared. This was obviously an upgraded version of the Kekii Genkai of the Kurama clan. With Ikeban's illusion skills, this ability is indeed the most suitable for him. With the Thunder Devil Fruit and the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, he is almost invincible. This time, he doesn't need to worry. Danza was relieved. Although Ikeban concealed the ability to turn himself into a phantom, Danza was not at all suspicious, and he was completely thinking about how to arrange the next plan. Ikeban, who possesses the Sharingan, obviously cannot be viewed with the same strength as before, and perhaps defeating Madara is not a delusion. Ikeban then discontinued the illusion. What they are going to talk about next does not need to be concealed, including checking the whereabouts of Madara. After all, he who masters the Flying Thunder God Jutsu is the only person suitable to enter the enemy place to investigate. There is no need to discuss the details. The existence of Flying Thunder God Jutsu is enough to make Ikeban leave the battlefield if he was disadvantaged, as long as he has enough chakra. But, leaving from the illusion, Ikeban quickly found Sakumo outside. Even if he didn't deliberately use his perception ability, no one could completely hide in front of Ikeban within a dozen steps, even if Sakumo was proficient in hiding skills. Teacher, Ikeban, I want to participate too. Sakumo's eyes were firm. Sakumo. Danza frowned slightly, his tone a little harsh. This kid can't teleport like Ikeban, and will only be a disservice if he goes. Teacher, I am the fastest, and I have Ikeban's special kunai. If I am at the border of the land of river, Ikeban can reduce the consumption of his chakra if he returns. Sakumo continued, and recently I have mastered Earth-style ninjutsu, and the 8 inner gates, I can open it until the 3rd gates, so even if you encounter Madara, I can give you more time to escape. This. Danza didn't know how to dissuade him for a while. Sakumo's thoughts can't be wrong, and it can indeed help Ikeban. The only thing to worry about is his safety after encountering Madara. After all, Rinnegan has heavenly attraction of all creation, and that attraction force is not something anyone can escape. In the event of being blocked by Madara, it may cause unnecessary sacrifices. But they indeed need someone to respond on the border of the land of river. Teacher, let Sakumo move on the border of the land of river. His ability to deal with Black Zetsu is more than enough. Akaban suggested, helping Sakumo. Based on his knowledge of Madara, it is unlikely that Madara will attack the border again after getting the 6 tails, unless he really wants to fight the 5 Kages. Okay, that's it, take more rest today. Besides, Akaban, if you want to paint, you can do it in the camp. I will send someone to help you deliver it to the factory. Danza seems to be pointing at something. Thank you so much. By the way, can I promote the comics in the camp? Akaban of course will not refuse. He hadn't come here before, but his comics were banned by the rest of Shinobi Village. So with him here, don't even think of banning his comics. You can figure it out, but you can't affect the task arrangement. Danza exhorted. Thank you, teacher. Akaban took his orders and retreated. Out of the camp, he began to wonder how to sell his comics. These Shinobi village leaders are too stubborn, so he must adopt abnormal methods to export culture. Poster. Everyone is a ninja, and they haven't read Naruto, so direct poster promotion is probably not good. With a glance, he noticed Sakumo. Yes, Sakumo's Chidori. Akaban instantly thought of a way, patted Sakumo's shoulder, smiled and said, Sakumo, let's train your Chidori later. Sakumo was at a loss, his Chidori had almost reached the point of perfection, and he didn't plan to focus on this technique right now. But he is smart. Before being pulled to the field, he knew what Akaban was going to do. This cargo brought a bunch of comics. Then, let Sakumo be in front of him, briefly explain some of Chidori's tips, pretending to instruct Sakumo to learn Chidori's appearance. Chidori's sizzling sound quickly attracted a large group of people. A bunch of taskless ninjas came to watch. What are you doing? Practice ninjutsu. Hey, don't know, this is Kakashi's signature ninjutsu Chidori in the comics, developed by Akaban and Sakumo. Many people in the outer village have never read the comics, and don't know the fame of the Chidori in Sakumo's hand, but Konoha's ninja will immediately help explain. Chidori. The Jonins of Hidden Cloud Village were immediately engrossed. After watching for a while, they wondered in their hearts this thing is very similar to their Lord Rakich's Jigakuzuki. Jigakuzuki means thrust of hell in English. You can try and combine it with the finger gun. Dewey has completed the integration of the 7th gates and the finger gun of the 6 navy styles. I believe you can too. Akaban said loudly. Sakumo was speechless. Because he had already completed this method. But he knew that Akaban wanted to pull these people over to watch the comics. Although he didn't understand the meaning of doing so, as a good friend, Sakumo would naturally not be able to tear down the stage. Finger gun, Chidori. The difficulty is not great, but the requirements for chakra control and physical skills are high. Sakumo can do it easily, but what is not easy is that he has to pretend that it was his first attempt. Although his acting skills are poor, most ninjas watching believe it. After a few trials, combining a finger gun with Chidori, one finger directly pokes a small hole in a tree not far away, and blue lightning chakras shoot along the hole, piercing the next tree. What kind of technique are you doing? At this time, a voice rang from the crowd. Akaban took a closer look. With this imposing manner and dress, it is estimated that it is the third Reikage. At this moment, the third Reikage should have created the Jigakuzuki, so Akaban's eyes squinted slightly, thinking that now he had a way to promote his comics sales in his heart, and smiled and said, "Finger gun Chidori." The finger gun is from One Piece, and Chidori is Naruto. I didn't expect the jutsu and technique in the comics to be logical in real life. Incredible. The third Reikage's eyes are bright, and he praises him constantly. Lord Reikage. When Sakumo saw it, he immediately stopped and bowed. I remembered that finger guns did appear in One Piece. It turned out to be this trick. Many ninjas suddenly realized. Can the comics moves be learned in reality? At this moment, everyone was suddenly interested in the two comics. Even if there is a ban on it, it is still difficult to stop the ninja's eagerness. For the ninja, wanting to secretly read the comics is not a matter of grasping. In a second, many ninjas left. The third Reikage suddenly thinks. I seem to be helping this little devil put up a wave of advertisements. Forget it. He looked at Akaban, looked at him up and down, and then spoke very directly. Since you are also a ninja that can use lightning style, I can point you some tricks using the lightning style ninjutsu. Can you teach me this jutsu? Teaching me some tricks? No, I don't want some tricks. I want to learn your finger Jigakuzuki in return. Akaban proudly said. The third Reikage glanced at him and didn't bother to take care of Akaban, who was so greedy. The four-fingered Jigakuzuki was their village trump card. How could it be easily taught to others? However, some of the essences can still be pointed out secretly. Sakumo has mastered the finger gun and the Chidori. In fact, he is not far from it. Sakumo looked at Akaban. This is the technique that Akaban taught him, and he is not qualified to decide for himself. It's best to improve your defense capabilities. Akaban said, seems to be implying something. Third Reikage's cloak of lighting is a self-invented ninjutsu. It is very powerful when combined with taijutsu, especially using it for body protection. If he can learn this jutsu, it can solve Sakumo's defensive weakness. As for the four-fingered Jigakuzuki, it is not big since he can redeem it using points. Anyway, the combination of Chidori and the finger gun is similar to the one-finger Jigakuzuki. This sly little devil, his vision is really wicked. The third Reikage curses in secret. Sure enough, he is like Danza, sinister and cunning, and very greedy. But thinking of the power of finger gun, he was a little moved. This technique is too suitable for his four-finger Jigakuzuki. If he can master it, his strongest spear will be further strengthened, almost omnipotent. How about it? Deal. The third Reikage gritted his teeth and agreed. Of course. He couldn't teach the real lightning release armor, at most he pointed out some tricks in this area, and it was up to Sakumo himself to understand it. Akaban is also not worried. If Sakumo couldn't learn enough, he had the system to redeem this ability to complete it. By then, he would pretend that it was Sakumo's own comprehension of the lightning release armor. On the other side, a group of ninjas left secretly and went to the camp to borrow comics. Yesterday, no conditions were required, it was free. But today, everyone found that the rules have changed. In order to avoid losing books, borrowers need to pay a deposit and apply for a library card before they can read them for free. Library card. Deposit. On this day, the rules have changed so much. I won't read it. Some people are aggrieved. But soon, they saw a few people secretly starting to line up. Then, those who said they won't read it, join the ranks of the team. The library card also has different functions on different rank ninjas. Chunin can choose to leave his name, he does not need to deposit, and he can obtain a VIP level library card. He can borrow books first, and the rental period is longer each time. On the Chunin library card, you can apply for an ordinary library card without a deposit, while Genin's needs a deposit to get a general certificate. The store has a reputation for giving back to the contributions of Jonin and Chunin, so this special benefit is launched. Leave a name. It seems not impossible. Several Jonins thought for a while, but still decisively left their names, got a VIP library card, and happily borrowed a full set of Naruto comics. As for One Piece, very few people have rented them, at most a few people have rented the latest plots they haven't read. The line gets longer and longer. No one wants free, but everyone is rushing to it with restrictions. Especially after knowing that the techniques in the comic book are likely to be developed in reality, and the verbal bans from different villages can't stop the fiery borrowing frenzy. But within an hour or two, the book was rented to only 100 sets. The caravan managing the comics put up a sign in time. Currently remaining, 100 sets. At this time, Chonins, who was afraid that their name would be remembered, did not intend to give his name, and they chose not to apply for a VIP card. They did not jump in the line, instead, they swapped with their subordinates they recognized in the team. As for whether there was a verbal threat during the swap, it is not known. In short, under his instructions, the comics were rented out soon. A group of ninjas are looking for hidden places around the camp to read comics. When there are more people, they will inevitably meet. Even if they don't know each other or belong to different villages, they are not embarrassed at all. Everyone is a comic fan. The ninjas who met sat down and exchanged their views on the plot while reading, analyzing the novel ninjutsu inside, etc. The scene was very friendly. Seeing the Chunin exam, if several people are not from the hidden sand village, they will still say what a useless fourth case kid, he died from an assassin and so on. Of course. If a sand ninja was present, they would not dare to say it. Otherwise, it will become chaos. Sand ninja almost knows how to make poison with one hand. Poison is their speciality, and no one wants to be inexplicably poisoned, so they will try not to provoke Sand Ninja. Soon, with swift movements, they saw the latest plot. The comics are very nice. For Hidden Cloud Village, the most exciting thing is the recent plot. Whether it's the fourth rage's brutal and decisive fighting style, or the third rage's strength, and his death, let these iron men shed tears. In comparison, the Hidden Mist Village is not so comfortable. Their fifth Mitsukage turned out to be a woman. Although Konoha fifth Hokage is a woman, but she is the granddaughter of the god of ninjas. What about Terumimai? Besides, the part where the seven swordsmen were reincarnated using the impure world reincarnation was simply piercing the heart of the hidden mist ninja. Seeing the seven swordsmen, they can't help but think of their 6 swordsmen that had just been formed, and now they have been completely wiped out, and there are only 5 swords left. It's too awful. As for Hidden Stone Village, well, everyone is happy for Onaki to live so long. The comic has a great influence on the camp, especially the ninjas from other villages. Onaki and others wanted to prohibit the comic book Naruto from passing among ninjas in the village because it contained too many private goods belonging to Konoha ninjas. For example, Kakashi's companion and waste theory. The friendship between Naruto and Sasuke. The third Hokage's will of fire. Etc. These conceptions can easily affect the ninjas in their village. In this era, the general consensus is that ninjas are tools. Ninjas should take task completion as their bounden duty. Under special circumstances, as long as they can complete the task, they can sacrifice themselves. This is the consensus of all shinobi villages. Having said that, everyone will still like the humane ninja village. Everyone may encounter risks in the mission. As the parties involved, everyone hopes that they are the ones being saved, not being abandoned. In short, this comic is a mental poison for all shinobi, with the exception of Konoha. Because the third Hokage originally planned to do this. Sarutobi Hiruzen very much agrees with the statement of the will of fire, and this thinking is inherited from the first and second Hokages. And the Ninja Academy exists to delay the children from entering the battlefield early. However, the attraction of the comics is hard to escape, and no matter how tightly protective measures are taken, it is difficult to defeat opponents' pervasive propaganda. Akaban's promotion of ninjutsu in comics can be trained in real life made Naruto and One Piece more popular in the camp. In the beginning, ninjas in each village had to use shadow clones and other techniques to delay and create an alibi when applying for library cards. But later, there were too many people. The law does not blame the public, so everyone boldly became bolder, and even more, secretly began to compare whose VIP library card looks better. But in fact, the VIP library cards are all the same, but when they are produced, they may be deviated due to the shaking of the hands of the workers, but there is no question of which one looks better. Of course, in the late stage, they can consider creating different guises of super VIP library cards, Chunin library cards, etc. And through this implementation, the membership system can spread throughout the ninja world. Due to the popularity of comics, Akaban's points have skyrocketed, and there are also many ninjas who privately compare the comic version of the characters with reality. Such as the waist of Onaki. But the current Onaki waist is still good. Although something happened in the past from facing Akaban, it's not that serious, and thanks to his youth and strength, he quickly recovered. It's just that the secret ninjutsu of Hidden Stone Village has an effect on their waist the most, especially since Onaki is not tall, so his fate will be the same as in the comics if nothing has changed. Onaki became quite worried. He claims to be the strongest among the third Hokages in each village, but if he gets a back pain problem, it will probably affect his strength, so he starts to pursue his health. To this end, he also consulted with the drug expert Kyo in Sand Village. Kyo was in a bad mood before, and she didn't even have the desire to read comics, but since the 6 swordsmen in Mist Village were wiped out and their Jinchuriki was seized, her mood immediately improved. At least not only their Sand Village has bad luck. Madara's objective was not the hidden Sand Village, his goal was indeed the whole world. When she was in a good mood, she was also willing to give Onoki some health advice, and prescribe some prescriptions to maintain the waistcloth. Akaban rested in the camp, but the comic update did not stop. He has an independent camp, which can be used for painting and rest, while Konoha's work in the Anbu and preparatory department will be temporarily replaced by others. Therefore, all his shadow clones can concentrate on drawing updates. High efficiency. By the time of dinner, they had completed the update and it was sent to the factory through Anbu Ninja. After harvesting a large wave of points, Akaban hesitated back and forth between physical and mental power. With a mental power of 300, he has not fought against Madara for the time being, and it is impossible to know what kind of effect the illusion of 300 mental power can have on Madara. After careful consideration, he decided to temporarily hold down the points. First go to try it on Madara, and then come back to decide how to use this point. If the genjutsu driven by 300 mental powers is enough to cause damage to Madara, he will put them all into his body. Facing an experienced player like Madara, physical skills are equally important. There is no way to sleep on the bed in the camp. Akaban got up very early, and today Sakumo still trains the lightning release armor with the third Reikiju, so he has no plans to go to Madara right away. Firstly, Sakumo is not far from learning it, so it's better if he learns it first before they depart, and secondly, Uzumaki Maito also needs his cooperation. As mentioned earlier, the Three Tails Jinchuriki was rescued, but in fact, he was not in good condition. It's because Madara forced him to use his tailed beast mode, which caused a great load on his body. When he came back, he lay on the hospital bed and was unable to move. This requires medical ninja treatment. Kyo and many other village medical ninjas participated. Konoha's medical class had not arrived yet, so Akaban took the initiative. At this time, when they learned that this young man was also a medical ninja, they were naturally surprised. How did this little guy learn? Too knowledgeable and comprehensive, and even his taijutsu has become so strong. It is incredible. Of course, Konoha will not reveal his own personal details. In fact, even they don't know how Akaban learned it. This is a mystery. And when they asked about it from Danza, the expression on Danza as Akaban teacher is of course somewhat funny. Because he also doesn't know where Akaban learned everything even though he is his teacher. In the afternoon, the comics were sent to the camp again. To say that Onaki and others tried to stop it before, but when the update came, they no longer bother about it and keep their silence. Because the ninjas are unstoppable. Jonins took the lead in borrowing books, and with so much evidence showing that the leaders of these villages have seen these comics long ago, how can they convince the public? In the end, Onaki, Reikiju and others had to participate. They compromised with Akaban and said that they would no longer block everyone from reading comics, but the requirement is to implement a system of borrowing books to verify the name, and ninjas who have specified tasks cannot borrow comics to prevent someone from being lazy in their posts and causing unnecessary losses. Of course, Akaban agreed. The implementation is also very simple. The final statement of the above belongs to the comic shop. With that simple sentence, all problems are solved. Since it is no longer forbidden, as long as there is no mission period, everyone will have a lot of freedom to read comics and no longer hide in hiding. No one will hide in places like groves and bushes anymore. During the break, they usually read comics in camps and other places. The latest comics updates are very exciting. Naruto officially faces Tobi and seems to be reconciled with Nine Tails to achieve true Nine Tails tailed beast transformation. The Eight Tails tailed beast transformation is so powerful, not to mention Nine Tails. Everyone has full expectations, but gone. It's a cliffhanger. Even if Akaban updates 10 chapters every day, the ninjas still think that he is very slow, and they wish Akaban would ignore One Piece and concentrate on drawing Naruto. But this is very unfair to One Piece fans. Many complain and said that it's better to ignore the One Piece, but a single "shut up" from the third Reikiju is enough to make people who preach this kind of remarks shut their mouths. It's because his four-finger hell stab, with finger gun skills, is almost invincible and he learned it from One Piece comic, so how can he tolerate those idiots? The third Reikiju is a kind man. The effect of the finger gun fusion with the four-finger hell stab is stronger than he thought, so he did not hesitate to share some of his insight of lightning release armor with Sakumo. Although lightning release armor was not taught directly to protect the body, it was not far off. At the same time, in a cave in the Land of Wind, Madara also got the comic book sent by his puppet Zack. Fighting, catching tail beasts and dealing with six tails. Due to this series of things, he didn't have time to read the comics. Until today, he has dealt with the six-tailed Jinchuriki, and he is gradually free to read the comic book and see what the little guy has drawn. After reading it for a while, he saw the plot of himself being resurrected. From Madara's point of view, Akaban is very good at learning and applying. Knowing that Madara awakens Rinnegan, he immediately changed the plot so that Madara, who got reincarnated by the impure world reincarnation, also owns Rinnegan. The resurrected Madara is very strong, and he is still in his prime. This makes him feel a little moved in reality. If he can be resurrected to his prime, and then resurrected by using the impure world reincarnation, he can get rid of his old and troubled body. However, this is clearly a delusion. As far as Black Zetsu, that loser's ability is concerned, he didn't even dare to go to Konoha, even more, how to find the impure world reincarnation, and Akaban had been keeping his update, so Madara was not sure whether the little guy had come to the front or still in the village. Therefore, the combination of impure world reincarnation and revolving heaven is just a beautiful delusion. 5 Kages gathering. Madara laughed dumbfounded. As far as the 5 Kage of this generation in the comics are concerned, it is probably barely enough for him to have fun with them together. In the era when the Senju brothers and Mito died, he was so invincible that it made him lonely. After reading it, he was in a good mood. Akaban drew him very strongly, and the battle was almost one-sided. In the comics, Madara is not fighting, but just playing with his enemy. Disregarding the opponent numbers, that arrogant face. It looks like my own character. But Madara's heart was gloomy but at the same time a bit sad. Sometimes, he himself hates his old body. If it hadn't been for the purpose of world peace, he would have chosen to fight actively and then go silent with arrogance. Hiding in this gloomy cave is not the life he expected. Thinking of this, Black Zetsu came back. Madara immediately consolidated his senses, avoiding his mood swings being seen by Black Zetsu. Madara, the 6 tails has been sealed again. Through the combination of White Zetsu and him, we can control the current Jinchuriki to the maximum extent. Should we also use this method on 1 tails? Black Zetsu is now fused with a White Zetsu and has preliminary fighting strength. But he is still weak. Madara glanced at him, and then said lightly, "Never, don't do unnecessary things, here I am the boss." Of course. Black Zetsu noticed that Madara had 2 comic books beside him. He felt uneasy again. He didn't have time to go out in the past 2 days. So he doesn't know what is drawn in Akaban's comics, in case it is something that is not good for him. Thinking of this, he couldn't help feeling a little flustered. Madara was expressionless, but he was more certain in his heart. Black Zetsu was hiding something big from him, and Kurama Akaban happened to know this. But this is not the time to consider these. Although he has obtained 6 tails, his combat effectiveness has not substantially improved. If he cannot break through the allied forces to obtain more tail beasts, he will not be able to realize his wish. Therefore, in a short period of time, Black Zetsu is still very useful to him. This smelly brat, even in the front line, he doesn't skip his comics update. Hiruzen complained, and then gently closed the page. Drawing on the front line is not necessarily a bad thing. At least it proves that there is nothing wrong with Madara. On the other hand, he suspects that Akaban's source of intelligence is likely to be similar to the dreamland of the Great Toad Sage and the Dream Tapper. Only at a certain time can he obtain intelligence about the enemy and draw it in comic format, so that he can continue the dream. Of course, this is purely the guess of Hiruzen. In fact, no one except Akaban knows, and no one will ask about it specifically. Everyone has a secret, and a genius like Akaban can almost create a powerful village by himself. Akaban is currently dedicated to the village. If he offends future geniuses because of such boring secrets, then the top of the village is undoubtedly kicked by the donkey. Even the suspicious Danza would not choose to do so. Firstly, Akaban is his disciple, who can inherit his career even for Hiruzen and fulfill his long-cherished wish to be a Hokage. Secondly, Madara with Rinnegan is too strong, and Uzumaki Maito alone cannot defeat him alone. Defeating Madara, Akaban knowledge and strength is needed, and he can even become the next Hokage, so who will do such a stupid thing? As for breaking the bridge and killing the donkey after the war, it was even more impossible. If he can defeat Madara, who can defeat Akaban? Danza's mind was very clear. He blocked all the futures of his disciples. Akaban's shadow clone was very busy, and he drew 10 more chapters in the afternoon, and he himself took advantage of this time to accumulate Senjutsu chakra. Compared with Naruto, he has an advantage. The existence of the Yin Seal allows Akaban to store a large amount of Senjutsu chakra for combat use, without the need for inefficient methods such as shadow clones. In the camp, everyone discussed the plot of the comics. Naruto and One Piece are extremely popular, followed by the R18 comics of Jiraiya and Akaban alias. These two series are not restricted for sale abroad and can be bought everywhere. But, in order to prevent exhausted ninja from appearing in the war, the high-level Union forces soon introduced relevant policies. During the Prohibition War, they can watch and read Kafirim and Love in the Desert. But when they have a mission, it will be seized and the library card will also be collected before they are dispatched. Well, for now, this punishment is quite a deterrent. For these ninjas who have just touched the comics, everyone can't read the comics. It just happens that others can read but they can't. That feels. It's like being tied to an island and isolated from the world. Onaki's concerns are correct. Comics, now that entertainment is scarce, are as powerful as a poison to indulge. The next day, the comics have just arrived, and a bunch of ninjas have lined up in front of the temporary shop, waiting for the bookstore to open for rent. The ones in the front are all jonin. Not far away, a middle-aged man resented. The mere comics make these jonins so unbearable. With Kurama Akaban alive, sooner or later he will kill the village and make Konoha so rotten in the future. Danza, you will pay the price sooner or later if you indulge your disciples. Mitokado Homura secretly thought angrily. However, he didn't know that his attitude was all under someone's attention. With his mental power reaching more than 300, his observation haki also increased its range. Everything that happened in this camp would never escape Akaban's perception. It's the same even if Black Zetsu comes, let alone Mitokado Homura. But he didn't care. It's just a dancing clown. No matter how Mitokado Homura is stumbling, he can't harm his interests at all. On the contrary, if he wants to kill him, he can do it with only one thought. With his current mental power, only one genjutsu can make Mitokado Homura die bizarrely. The comic has been updated. Akaban went out and saw many ninjas holding comics in their hands. Happy to go back to their camp to watch and read it, and share it with the rest of their friends. There are so many coalition forces that not everyone can get comics. However, if the leaders of their village want them, they will be given priority. For example, the third Reikiju, Onaki, Hansa, etc. These people are the most enthusiastic about comics, and the rest like the third Mitsukage, and the leader of the hidden waterfall village and so on are all lacking in interest. They both want to regain their Jinchu Uriki. However, the leader of hidden waterfall village probably didn't know that the seven-tailed Jinchu Uriki was not on Madara's side at this moment, but in Kakuzu's hands, and there were sealing techniques set up by Akaban and Kakuzu, which could isolate all exploration. Itakai and Sajuk, these two brothers are really. Akaban is really amazing. He can come up with such an incredible plot. Speaking of which, Danza, does Uchiha have a main Gekyo now? In the tent where the leaders are gathering, Onaki, the third Reikiju and Danza are sitting together, holding comics in their hands, and they seem to have no motives and guard against each other. Of course. This is superficial. In fact, even at this moment, everyone is constantly testing each other and preparing for the post-war fight. Because everyone believes that they can defeat Madara. For example, the third Reikiju, after he has mastered the finger gun and integrated it into his own hand, he can't wait to find Madara and prove that he has surpassed the existence who is dominating the ninja world. Of course, Danza will not leak the news easily, but there are still some that must be revealed. He thought for a second and replied, Uchiha does have a main Gekyo Sharingan, but he can't compete with Madara. He hides one person, that is Kurama Akaban. Judging from the fact that Akaban can see more of the stone tablet, his pupil power has actually existed for a long time, but at that time, his bloodline has not been stimulated yet. I see, but it's okay, I want to try to. How much combat power does Madara still have? The third Reikiju squeezed his fist, the strongest spear was ready to move. Don't worry, wait a few more days. Danza indifferently said. Anyway, after 2 days, the Jinchu Uriki had already been resolved. No matter how anxious it was, it would not help. It would be better to hold off and wait, let Akaban decide the time to do it himself. Fortunately, Madara did not master the impure world reincarnation technique, otherwise, the consequences would be disastrous. Danza is most fortunate to destroy all the information and traces of impure world reincarnation, leaving only Akaban and Uzumaki Maito who knows how it works. In this way, Madara will not be able to obtain impure world reincarnation from other channels. Otherwise, the infinite chakra, undying and inextinguishable Madara will be really difficult to deal with. But the Sage Mode, what kind of power is this? Onaki asked. In Hidden Stone Village, the power of Sage Mode has never been touched. Konoha can draw this kind of comic, so they obviously have mastered this kind of ability. Incorporate natural energy into chakra and extract senjutsu chakra. It is difficult to manipulate. If it is absorbed without special training, the consequences are same as those in the comics. The third Reikiju muttered. Almost. Danza nodded and was about to explain in detail. As a result, the curtain of the tent was opened, and a beam of light came in. Everyone half squint their eyes to adapt to the light while observing people coming in from outside. It's time for war. As the leader, you are hiding here to read comics. Kyo's tone was a little angry. Danza squinted slightly and then said lightly, don't worry, it's useless to be anxious now. Madara needs a tailed beast. Let's guard the Jinchuriki first, and wait for those who can act and detect to prepare before taking the next step. Kyo, we have our own plan, so why march rashly? Do you want all our ninjas to die in the land of wind? Onaki was very dissatisfied. Kyo is only the consultant elder of the hidden sand village. She was not qualified to argue with them. He was willing to explain that it was because of the difficult situation in Sand Village. Of course. Onaki's temper was mainly because he didn't deal with the Sand Village. During the first Shinobi War, Hidden Sand Village took advantage of Stone Ninja's battle with Hidden Mist and stabbed them in the back. This deep hatred is not so easy to eliminate. Just like Kyo and Konoha's hatred. Sorry, I am impatient. Kyo took a deep breath, then bowed. There is no other way. Who made Sand Village weak? Originally, they only had half of their combat power, but now even half of the ninjas have been slaughtered by Madara, which is so miserable. Because of this, Danza did not speak to stimulate her. Sakumo was his disciple, and if he said something out of place at this moment, God knows what this widow woman will do. On the other side, Akaban has gained a lot of points, and the accumulated points on hand have reached nearly 50,000. If he exchanges it for attributes, he can exchange 40 attribute points. If there is a new item that's worth redeeming. He began to ponder the goal in his mind, and after thinking about it, the best option is undoubtedly Senju Hashirama's physique. If he can redeem Senju Hashirama's sage body, then his only shortcoming can be made up, almost not losing to the Sage of Six Paths. However, the appearance of Senju Hashirama will probably take 40 more chapters. Akaban thought for a long time, and finally decided. If he gets a sage body, is he still afraid of Madara? Akaban made a goal in his heart. Of course. Even if the plan is like this, he still has to check Madara's sight, at least to see the situation, and add a block to Black Zetsu by the way, lest Madara and Black Zetsu forget about themselves. When looting the tailed beast of Hidden Mist Village, the two have a tacit understanding, and he was more worried about the safety of Kakuzu if they didn't do anything. This is the same purpose as Madara deliberately killing Ninja a few days ago on the border. As for the method, it's simple, he can reveal what Black Zetsu's goal is. What Black Zetsu fears most is definitely that his purpose is revealed. Throwing a fantasy movie in the past is equivalent to playing a trailer in advance. Now that he decided to make a big change, Akaban did not hesitate to separate 4 shadow clones to take over the work of his predecessor and let them continue to work and paint. He consumes a lot of chakras, so he should go out for a good meal, and then come back to continue to refine chakras. A perfect plan. Of course, the shadow clones have big opinions, but no one cares about their opinions. Anyway, the shadow clones' need for food belongs to the category of eating or not eating, and their hard work is rewarded. Being a boss doesn't need a blessing, it's the employee's exclusive. Akaban can sit comfortably in the camp canteen and enjoy the delicious ingredients collected by other ninjas. Generally, the ninja team does not have a gourmet ninja, but since the emergence of Hot Pot has become the standard when the team goes out for missions. Take a bag of sauces for the bottom of the pot, and then catch fish, mushrooms, wild vegetables and the like, and a pot of delicious hot pot is ready. After eating hot pot, Akaban packed up and prepared to rest. Both Madara and Black Zetsu have strong perceptions. Attacking at night is meaningless to a ninja of this level. Akaban doesn't plan to do it either, shouldn't it be time to sleep at night? Overtime is not Akaban's style. However, in order to make the update, he really had to help draw some comics when he returned after the meal. With the help of his shadow clones, the update is complete. However, One Piece has postponed its update. All for the sage body. Akaban asked Angu to send the comic to the factory, and then he could sleep and rest at ease. The next morning, Akaban got up to wash and then used the flying thunder jutsu to go to the land of wind. And just like how they plan it, Sakumo was waiting at the border. He has learned half of lightning release armor, and now his defensive ability has been fully enhanced. However, his lightning release armor is not static. The lightning release armor of the third Raikage is better at defense, so it is called the strongest shield, while the fourth Raikage's lightning release armor is on speed. That's why the fourth Raikage speed is very incredible. And Sakumo practiced the latter. He was already good at speed, but now with lightning release armor that increased his speed, coupled with his own speed expertise and the speed increase after opening the 8 inner gates, his peak speed is really hard to measure right now. The Cave in the Land of Wind. Madara received the comic the moment it got updated. As before, he didn't let Black Zetsu get the comic, but through Zack. Not all the ninjas in the Sand Village were controlled. In fact, except for the Knight of the Summon of the demonic statue of the Outer Path, only one, Zack, was controlled the rest of the time, but Zack was the third Kazekage, and no one would dare not listen to his orders. Since the second Kazekage, the Hidden Sand Village has attached great importance to Naruto comics, and no one will doubt it. 20 chapters. Madara frowned slightly, then opened the cover and began to read the content. According to his understanding of Akaban, this person has been keeping up to date, which means he hasn't moved yet, but recently, it is reasonable to say that he has engaged in a wave of actions at the border. This kid should have a look under Danza's instructions. He set up an ambush, specifically waiting for Akaban to appear. But so far, Kurama Akaban has not moved at all, and his arrangement seems to have failed. The plot of the comic continues the plot of the two brothers in the last volume. Madara doesn't care about this and intends to glance at the follow-up, but in the middle, he suddenly notices a word. Izanami. This jutsu corresponds to Izanagi. Madara, as Uchiha's most outstanding genius, will naturally use this jutsu. That kid Uchiha Yuan, how could he even tell outsiders about this thing? A worthless leader. Uchiha has lost its desire to confront Konoha, and if it continues like this, they will be swallowed up and destroyed by Konoha's policies sooner or later. Just like in the comics. As early as when he failed to become a Hokage, Madara had seen this through. Konoha would not accept Uchiha, nor would they tolerate Uchiha's continued survival in the village. Mentioning the use of Izanami, he was not interested in seeing it, he just glanced at it, and then quickly flipped through it. But Madara does not agree with Konoha, but it does not mean that he can agree with this approach. At least, if Senju Tobirama was alive, he would not choose to do this. Senju Tobirama has done all kinds of bad things for the village, but that guy is higher in level and will not threaten weak women and a child like Danza. What is the difference between forcing children to go to the battlefield and their previous parents? But this is only a comic. The current Danza hasn't taken a path of no return. The route plan was cancelled due to Akaban influence. On the contrary, Mitokado Homura, who has been struggling to develop routes but in the end failed. And Madara is not yet ready to substitute comics people into reality. But Izanami, he still couldn't bear it. Even the specific principles have been clearly stated. Uchiha Yuan, the current patriarch of the Uchiha, will die first. How dare he? Is there anything that can be said and cannot be said? Madara got angry when he saw it, and quickly turned back, skipping this paragraph, and then continued until the impure world reincarnation was lifted. Is it the end? No. Madara sneered slightly. The impure world reincarnation was very strong, but he knew there was a fatal flaw. Under certain circumstances, the operator can break free of the restraints. Any technique has risks. And impure world reincarnation is no exception. After all, it is just a summon contract plus some spells of the puppet. Madara himself is a master in this area, otherwise, he cannot summon and control the Nine Tails. To use this method to manipulate Uchiha Madara, this Kabuto is still too young. It's just like an adult taking a lollipop from a child. There is no costless jutsu in the world, the more powerful, the greater the cost. Madara flipped through the pages. He didn't care about the plots of Orochimaru, so he flipped the pages quite quickly. He stopped and looked at it until he talked about the 10 tails. Kurama Ikeban studies himself deeply. Infinite Tsukuyomi does not need to gather all chakra. As long as you gather most of the tailed beast, the remaining 1 or 2 parts can also meet the requirements of the activation technique. Originally, he planned to use this method to smother the Alliance forces, but now he was seen through. Madara, we. Black and white Zetsu emerged from the soil and were about to talk, but a genjutsu enveloped them and Madara. The two fell into an illusion at the same time. Kurama Ikeban. Madara was planning to crack the genjutsu out but found that something was wrong. In front of them, there is a huge screen, which plays comics, but it's moving comics, an anime. A mountain. A lotus lamp. And a woman in white. A very familiar scene. Black Zetsu frowned slightly, feeling that things were not simple. This scene seems to have been seen somewhere, but he can't remember it for a moment. What exactly is it? Before he could remember, the screen had given the answer. The story of the Rabbit Princess. I remember. Black Zetsu was confused at first, but everything came to mind. This was the illusion that Kurama Ikeban showed on him in the past when he faced that brat. At that time, only the opening chapter was released, but now he obviously intends to release it all. The issue is, there is also Uchiha Madara on his side. He was panicking. Of course, Madara, who was using his Whisper Devil Fruit ability See It All, Black Zetsu was flustered, and there was a trace of fear of himself in his emotions. Is it because of this illusion? I didn't think this kid could launch a ninjutsu on us so fast. I am slow, let's crack the illusion first. Black Zetsu tried to calm down his tone. No, I'm a little interested in this story, let's take a look first. Anyway, this genjutsu can be solved at any time. Madara doesn't think this illusion can be fatal. If it can, he can even dispel the genjutsu at any time, but the more Black Zetsu is afraid, the more he wants to watch and know what's going on. Black Zetsu was anxious. But he couldn't leave, because Madara would be suspicious, and he would definitely feel something wrong when he left Madara but staying. This was a public sentence. He took a deep breath. But soon, he realized that his mentality was wrong. Madara doesn't know the meaning of this story, so why is he so afraid? The more afraid he is, the more Madara will be suspicious. Black Zetsu had lived for so long after all, and soon calmed down after adjusting his mentality. However, he didn't know that his fierce emotions had been completely dialyzed by Madara. Although Madara didn't know what this story meant, he would think about it after watching it. There is no doubt that Akaban's illusion is not entertainment, but released with a certain purpose. But from the beginning to the end, he didn't find any direct meaning. The story is childlike. At first, the Holy Mothers were crushed, and her son went through an ordeal behind her, holding an axe to split the mountain before he rescued the mother under her ceiling. What does this mean? Madara narrowed his eyes and stared at the screen in front of him, but it didn't take long for the illusion to fail automatically. But in the end, Akaban launched an attack. A knife that appeared inexplicably stabbed Madara's shoulder. After leaving the illusion, Madara glanced at his right shoulder. The wound on that side was just a thick little finger, which was very different from the injury in the illusion. However, the illusion did hurt him. For Madara with Rinnegan, this is incredible. Akaban's illusion skills are already above Madara. Of course, there is not much difference between them. Otherwise, the performance of this technique should be a piercing injury on the right shoulder, not a small hole with the thickness of the little finger. What does it mean? Black Zetsu was the first to speak, expressing his doubt. I don't know, maybe it's a battle book, or maybe he just wants to test his genjutsu skills. Madara pretends. He actually had a lot of speculation in his mind. When Akaban played this clip, Black Zetsu was very confused. There is no doubt that Kurama Akaban knew some secrets about Black Zetsu. This secret is deadly, but hidden in this story. Is Black Zetsu going to cut the mountain to save his mother? There is no mention of Indra's mother in the stone tablet left by the Sage of Six Paths. The most frequent mention is the relationship between Uchiha and Senju, followed by the story of Ten-Tailed and Nine-Tailed Beast. Wrong. Is Black Zetsu really Indra? Madara was shocked and found that he was guided by Black Zetsu. Black Zetsu has been constantly deepening a setting he is the soul of Indra, and Madara is the reincarnation of Indra. Previously, Madara was most worried about getting 10 tails, but then Black Zetsu proposed something and used his ability to steal his chakra and body, and he became a new Madara. According to Akaban's hint, Black Zetsu might not be Indra at all. However, who is Black Zetsu's mother? Is it the 10 tails? According to Black Zetsu himself, the 10 tails were transformed from the legendary sacred tree, which was not recorded by the Sage of Six Paths in the stone tablet, but Black Zetsu knew it so clearly. Maybe he is not Indra, but some kind of creature related to 10 tails. For example, the relationship between the 3 tails and Samehada. This kid has improved a lot. His genjutsu was not so strong last time. Black Zetsu interrupted and changed the subject. Well, he is improving every day. In terms of illusion, the Kurama do have a unique advantage as long as they swallow their Edo. On the surface, Madara was answering seriously, but he was thinking more about Black Zetsu and the 10 tails. There is definitely a problem with this product. He spread out his perception to detect Akaban's location. The kid could perform genjutsu, so he should be around here. It's not Madara's style to be passive and just receive the attack of his enemy. Before long, he discovered Akaban's location. Not far away. Humph. Madara got up and was about to capture Akaban. As a result, the next second, he was dragged into the genjutsu again. The genjutsu scene is very grand, a piece of yellow sand, 10,000 swords volley on the yellow sand, and when entering the genjutsu, the 10,000 swords fly together, sweeping everything like a god's calamity. Madara instantly activated his Susanoo inside the genjutsu. It's not a joke, this is a really terrible genjutsu, and Madara feels a danger from it. Its effect seems to be higher than that of Kurama genjutsu, which turns the virtual into reality. Boom tilde. The tribulation of 10,000 swords, even the Susanoo couldn't resist. After a while, Madara's Susanoo was almost broken. But at the same time, Madara cracked the genjutsu and barely broke free from it. Although he took damage before leaving the genjutsu, the effect after the re-engraving to reality was not that terrifying, but there were only a few wounds. But its power is much stronger than before. What a terrifying genjutsu! Black Zetsu was secretly speechless. Even Madara was hurt by the illusion to this point. He can imagine how powerful Ikeban's genjutsu is. Of course, Madara is fused with Hashirama cells, so this level of damage does not pose a real threat at all. It is just 2 breathing times, and the wounds are all healed as before. Only this. Ikeban frowned slightly, somewhat dissatisfied. Only this effect can't threaten Madara at all, and at most, it will restrict him. Killing is almost impossible. At this time, Madara had left the cave and rushed towards his position. Not only him, besides Madara, there are also 2 figures rushing from the direction of Hidden Sand Village and another place. It's the one-tailed and 6-tailed Jinchurikis. Ambush. It seems that Madara is also prepared, knowing he will come a long time ago. But you ambush me, I will steal your place. Ikeban spurred the Thunder Devil Fruit, unlocked the Yin Seal, and used the power of Senjutsu Chakra to boost the Thunder Devil Fruit, and carried out an ultra-long-range bombing in accordance with the sanctions of the God of Yin. Sage Art, God's Judgment. Over the cave where he perceives, dark clouds and silver lights danced wildly. In a moment, Madara gave up the idea of killing Ikeban and instantly moved to the cave. Ikeban aimed at the demonic statue of the outer path. Boom! A beam of thunder fell from the sky. Madara opened his Rinnegan and summoned 4 Limbo Shadow clones, allowing them to turn on Susanoo at the same time, while he uses wood-style ninjutsu to start defense. Protected by a protective layer formed by a heavy wood style, the 4 clones activated their Susanoo at the same time to share the damage, while Madara himself urged the power of Rinnegan to absorb and rebound the attack. Bairang. With one blow, Madara's wood style was completely destroyed, and the Susanoo of the 4 Limbo clones was also completely destroyed. Madara was unharmed, but a mountain in the distance was completely annihilated. The power of the thunder blew it into dust and gravel. The demonic statue of the outer path is okay. Black Zetsu reported immediately. I see. Madara's eyes narrowed slightly in his perception. Ikeban had already left. Why did Kurama Ikeban's genjutsu become so strong? Madara felt it was very strange. The last time they met, Ikeban's genjutsu can only slightly restrain him, but now it can actually cause damage. This speed of progress is really abnormal. Don't tell me they even sold the Sharingan. Madara thought of a possibility but then felt that it was impossible. No matter how stupid Uchiha Yuan was, he would not do such a stupid thing. Moreover, this kind of genjutsu is not difficult to crack, but it will cause a certain amount of damage. That kind of damage, with the recovery ability of Hashirama cells, only takes a moment to heal. Compared with this, Ikeban's Flying Thunder God Jutsu is obviously more troublesome. Time and space ninjutsu is difficult to target. Had it not been for this technique, Kurama Akaban would have died in his hands 800 times. In addition, was the previous short moving picture really hidden messages? Madara did not forget the rabbit princess. After a while, he became a little firmer even though Akaban launched an attack. The genjutsu he showed him should be real. In the face of flying thunder god jutsu, Madara had no plans to pursue it and soon sent White Zetsu to call the two Jinchurikis back. If it weren't for his flying thunder god jutsu, Akaban wouldn't dare to come over and make such noise. He was only in this world for more than 1 or 2 years, so he cherished his life more, but he didn't want to be in Madara's control, that's why he didn't have a choice but to fight. However, Akaban didn't think there was any problem. He was finally reborn once, and there is a system. Why do you want to fight with the strong? This trip is just to try the water. His own genjutsu is enough to affect Madara, but it cannot cause a real threat. At present, it is a good choice to continue to improve his mental power. As long as it is enough to make Madara green-eyed, then his genjutsu will be effective. In a hurry, Akaban did not teleport directly to Sakumo, but flew to the mark he had made in a certain position in advance, and then recovered chakra there. Not far from the border of the land of river, Akaban recovered his chakra and was about to use flying thunder god jutsu, but found that Sakumo had come to him first. Sakumo was not surprised that Akaban discovered him, and he would definitely be able to detect himself with his perception ability. Let's go. Sakumo thought that Akaban was exhausted, so he took a break here halfway, and when he pulled him up, he planned to retreat. No, I don't consume much chakra, just take you back to the camp. After Akaban finished speaking, he took him directly back to the camp. The coordinates are on the edge of Danza. It just so happens that Danza is in a meeting. Akaban, are you back? How's it going? Don't ask in a hurry, let him catch his breath first. In the end, it was Danza who loved his disciples who stopped their urging. Seeing that the leaders of the other villages kept asking, he immediately stopped their chaotic behavior with a drink. In the narrow tent, all the leaders of Shinobi village gathered. Akaban looked around for a while. It seems everyone is here. Akaban nodded his head since it's better to tell it to them all at once than one by one, so after he took a breath, he explained, I found Madara's whereabouts and tried to attack with genjutsu and sage attack, but the effect was minimal. Using genjutsu on Madara, you. The third Mitsukage was about to say that Akaban was unwise, but he stopped abruptly before he finished speaking, and then sat there with his eyes dull. Obviously, he was in genjutsu. In the next second, there was a chirp, and a bloody sword burst out of the body of the third Mitsukage, and the injury looked quite serious. However, Akaban treated him immediately, so the wound quickly recovered. The genjutsu of the Kurama clan. Kyo took a deep breath. But this is not important. Everyone knows that Akaban controls the 5 senses of the Kurama clan and turns the virtual into reality, but apart from Danza, no one knows that his genjutsu has reached the point of even injuring Kage level. The third Mitsukage has no expression on his face. Although it was very uncomfortable to be stepped on by a junior, he has been unlucky since he arrived in this country, and he has gotten used to it now. Besides, Akaban's genjutsu technique is indeed very strong and terrifying. In terms of strength, he is probably stronger than the 5 Kage. Konoha has such a genius. He was secretly shocked. The genjutsu I used for Madara is hundreds of times stronger than this. Akaban said lightly. What? Impossible. The third Mitsukage immediately changed his face. In the genjutsu just now, he was besieged by 100 swords, and every sword was tyrannical. Although he resisted and avoided them with water-style ninjutsu, he still got a blow. But he said 100 times stronger. In short, Madara's strength is very strong, with his Rinnegan that can absorb ninjutsu, and he can transfer his own damage to his limbo clones. I suggest that you don't take the initiative to attack him, instead, wait for the opportunity. Speaking of this, Akaban glanced at the map that Kyo had spread out. Originally, Kyo and the others were analyzing Madara's possible hiding spots, and they also marked a few guess locations on the top, one of which was Madara's hiding place. I have to say that these people still cannot be underestimated. Akaban sighed with emotion, then pointed to one of the red dots and said, "Madara is here. There are a lot of natural caves here, but few people have stepped into it after the war. The location is indeed very hidden, but it does not rule out the possibility that Madara can change the place after being discovered." Ibizo said after thinking for a few seconds. "If nothing else, I'll go to rest first." Akaban rubbed his eyebrows. That god punishment attack contained all of his senjutsu chakras, but even with that level of offense, it failed to cause much damage to Madara. The damage transfer of the 4 limbo clones is too strong. 4 times the injury-free, and there is still the Susanoo. His limbo clone must be resolved first. But the limbo clone also belongs to space-time ninjutsu. Although Uzumaki Mito can seal, it can't achieve perfect restriction. Madara can still summon them after a period of time. So the key is to lock them himself. Akaban thought secretly, and after leaving the tent with Sakumo, he stuffed a few food pills into his mouth, and then quickly digested it with his life return technique. Is Madara's strength really that terrifying? Sakumo was a little unwilling. If it is really like in comics, even if he learns lightning-style body protection, he still can't help. Akaban nodded lightly. The alive Madara must surpass the state of his resurrected state from the comics, and now Madara says that he is too old to fight. According to the plot of the comic, his lifespan is at least 10 years. In addition, the original Madara summons the demonic statue of the outer path was purely on its own, which would consume him a lot of chakra like Nagato. The summoned demonic statue of the outer path paid a huge price. And now, he borrowed the power of the Sand Village to minimize his own loss. Although his strength was weak, he benefited from the cells of Hashirama without regressing too much. Not to mention Sakumo, even his father Hatake Sagaki, and Danzo will not be able to cause real damage to Madara. In the camp, only Akaban and Uzumaki Mito can really hurt Madara, and there are also Might Dewey who continue to participate in the training of Orochimaru in Konoha. Really unwilling. Sakumo sighed softly, held the sword and then let it go. He knew that Akaban was right. Madara's strength was indeed not something he could match. Even if his talent was already high, he was still far from Akaban. That's it for this part guys, hope you like the video. Like, share and subscribe the channel. And also tell me in the comment section down below if you have any recommendation. Thanks for watching.